The first time you heard about COVID, how far did you think this would all go? Thought it would be like the last bird flu outbreak a few years earlier. Yeah, in early January 2020 I thought this would be like bird flu or swine flu outbreaks in the recent past where a novel virus is detected. It starts spreading. Officials warn of possible dire consequences. And then it all ends up being relatively small and pretty regional. I knew it was different based on how China was acting. I knew it was coming, but I didn't think it would go through to 2021, and beyond perhaps. Thought it would be 6 months of sheer hell. China was freaking out, building hospitals, quarantining a city of millions and millions of people. It was inevitable that it was gonna get out, to me. Thought it would be like the last bird flu outbreak a few years earlier. It was milder, and we survived. But every year, another strain jumps out and kills off everyone who was infected. This year, it was the swine flu. I figured it would be nothing. I've been through worse. It didn't hurt. In fact, the only thing I felt worse for was that I was a paralyzed, bedridden, blind, lame, and deaf hick for the rest of my life. It was a terrible burden to carry, especially as I had dreams of one day going to the US to study in the country. All I wanted out of life was to go back to the country I came from, so that I could start over. But that day never came. I liked your response, so I used it as a prompt. This was written by my eye. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. While packing up my stuff and carting it out to work from home, my boss catches me in the hallway looking a bit panicked. "I dunno, man," he laments. "This sounds a lot worse than originally thought." After a heavy sigh and uncomfortable silence, he lays out his apocalyptic premonition. "This is something that we might end up dealing with for 1, maybe even 2 whole months." I was traveling for work with a Chinese coworker in Jan 2020. He showed me a live-streamed video of the Chinese authorities building a huge-ass makeshift hospital in 10 days flat. I knew shit was real bad then. Went out to buy an N95 mask and the pharmacies were already out of stock. Man, I remember right near the start, there was initial talks, rumors, of going into lockdown. Like everyone quarantining, unable to go outside, and people were like, what the hell, a bit far isn't that? Then Italy and Spain actually started doing it. Finally we start doing it too. And on a call with my friends they're like, I heard this could last like 3 weeks, maybe even longer if things don't get better. They thought I was exaggerating and being pessimistic when I said this will go into 2021. Then again, I also estimated the death toll to be much higher than it's turned out to be, so glad I'm not completely right. I was following things very closely and was sort of panic buying stuff in February when we went WFH. I couldn't believe how many people thought it was going to be only a month long. There was also so much "it's just the flu." They said right at the start that the shutdown is so our hospitals won't be overrun. Flattening the curve was never about ending the pandemic. That's what freaked me the most. It looked so bad and everyone was so mad. Some people are still mad and it boggles the mind. I honestly never expected to still be dealing with this in the middle 2021. I had no idea how a world pandemic would end quickly and be over by the end of the year. I just assumed it would. When I first heard about it I didn't pay any attention. Then it was all I heard about, so it caught my attention again. When the first case was reported in the US I thought, oh fuck. We went to Disney World on March 7, 2020 and had a very weird feeling being there. It was the week before the parks closed and the crowds were light to say the least. We had just finished a 4-day trip to the parks the week before and it was packed. I walked out of our office with my friends on March 17, 2020 and didn't see them in person until the end of September. I've only been back to the office a few times starting this year. I don't mind being there, but being home is nice. The first morning of lockdown in my area of DFW, I went for a walk and marveled at the deserted streets during what would normally be rush hour. I was pretty impressed at how seriously people seemed to be taking the situation, and I thought that maybe we had a good shot at severely slowing the spread of the virus, as long as everybody did their part for a few weeks. Then, right in front of me, On an almost totally empty major thoroughfare, I saw the only 3 cars on the road get into a 3-car accident. Then I remembered how stupid everybody is. I feel bad for laughing, but that's a well-done story right there. Groaning level humor. 10/10. Did you guys also halt all air traffic? That was the weirdest part for me. Quiet roads. I got used to like it was New Year's Day every day. But the lack of airplanes messed me up for a little bit. Then the only air traffic was inbound helicopters to the hospitals, and that messed me up worse. It took my company 2 months to shut down after everyone else had been mandated to work from home. I take one of the busiest sections of highway in the US to work, and it was completely deserted during that time. It was both bizarre and wonderful. It was also eerie seeing all the LED road signs with the words "Stay home, save a life" over the empty road. And yes, there were a ton of accidents every day. I work at a health insurance company and started creating COVID financial models in February 2020. It was pretty clear from the trajectory of mid-February to mid-March that without quick and decisive federal action, it was going to last at least through the fall or winter of 2020. By late March we saw all of the PPE shortage issues. By early April the entire supply chain was fucked. That was around the time I suspected it wouldn't be over until there was a vaccine. America wouldn't be quarantining our way out of this one. I was recently listening to a podcast where Darren Lindbasman, director of Saw 2 and Spiral, was a guest. He said that he thought the same thing. Everyone else thought he was crazy to be buying all this hand sanitizer and masks, but what do you know? He did mention that he overshot a bit in how many masks he bought, so he started donating them to nearby hospitals when they were running out. After a couple weeks passed, I was more upset that I couldn't buy TP, and that people overreacted with the hoarding. You don't need actual hoarding for TP to run out. Supermarkets, and other businesses that sell physical products, don't like keeping more inventory than necessary, because having inventory is expensive. So supply chains are optimized to minimize inventory while still having products on the shelves. Toilet paper is something that is rather bulky, compared to most supermarket products, and moves quite slowly. In addition, the demand for it is very steady and therefore predictable. Under normal circumstances, you don't really see massive spikes and drops in TP demand. As a consequence, most supermarkets will have very little buffer stock of TP, because they know with a high degree of accuracy how much people buy. So when even a relatively small fraction of customers decides to buy 1 pack more or earlier than they'd otherwise do just in case, you can very rapidly get empty shelves. And since the other links in the supply chain are also optimized to minimize stale inventory, there is very little buffer to meet the increased demand. What the pandemic has shown is not how people are irrationally hoarding stuff, but rather how sensitive our hyper-optimized supply chains can be to disturbances in demand. Same here. I was vaguely aware that there were people getting sick and dying from an unknown thing. Then word through the grapevine was the state was shutting down. I was a local government employee. But come on, you guys are joking. This is hearsay on hearsay, nothing more than gossip. Then the whispers started getting louder to the point I was having dinner at a local bar after work, and the email came in as a formal notice. Wait, this is absolutely not a normal thing. This isn't even a private. Businesses are being shut down. What do you mean we are shutting down? The government cannot possibly be included in this order. But we were. It went as far as taking shifts in the office. Social services and related things absolutely are essential. For obvious reasons we could not be allowed to lapse entirely. Yeah, I was mostly still like, it's just a bad flu. Sheesh. Until the governor is like, okay, we're going to shut everything down in 2 weeks. Then it's like, holy shit, this thing is for real. I gotta say I was initially nervous for like a week, though, because the US's first confirmed case was in the same hospital where my primary care provider is, and the patient was there at the same time I was there for a checkup. Obviously not the same room, but I was like, oh no, for a little while, and then didn't care a whole lot until this shut down. As an essential data center worker which had an office of over 100 cubicles, I actually tried to water people's plants at least weekly, but my own workload grew and I had to give up eventually. Over the time of a couple months, I seen about half of people eventually came in and took them home. Hopefully they knew someone was taking care of them, instead of thinking they were super resilient. Edit, there was this one vine plant a woman kept and would keep in her cube, but trimmed down so it did not encroach on others or her work area. It was near dead when I found it, and it came back to life thanks to me. After a month of me watering it, one day I noticed it was gone, along with her family pictures in her cube. I really hope it's still thriving. I got attached to that one. I work in construction. We renovate office buildings. We play COVID office bingo now when we do walkthroughs. Dead plants are 5 points. March 2020 calendars are 2 points. Christmas 2019 decorations are 20 points. It's a fun way to amuse yourself and try and forget that your ability to feed your children based on office renovation. Edit, it's 50 points to find a Tupperware still full of a forgotten meal. Instant win to open it. Second edit, not all your plants are dead. Many build security guards, who literally have nothing else to do, have been caring for your plants. Many have moved all the plants to their break room or front desk. Some look like plant nurseries at this point. Third edit, easiest way to win the game is to find a vending machine, tons of yas and orange juices and things with April 2020 expiration dates. I heard about it December 2019/January 2020. There were photos people got by hacking CCTV cameras in China of people getting welded into their apartments, bodies being hauled off, and people being forcibly quarantined. There were GPS photos of mass burial sites and mass cremations. TBH, I thought it would be worse. It was still bad, but I thought it was going to be a Black Death level pandemic that would have killed off a quarter of the population. I was scared out of my mind. I was living alone, stationed 800 miles from my husband, and 30 weeks pregnant. The military had put a stop movement order so I couldn't move to be with him. No family, no friends in the area, no support. I was really scared about delivering alone, raising a newborn by myself, and generally being afraid of others to hurt my baby unintentionally with their germs. I stocked up on canned food, water, and books to make sure if it got worse, I could stay home with the baby and not have to go anywhere for a long time. Update, I had no gender reveal, no baby shower, and I did give birth alone, and raised my baby for 6 weeks by myself until I could reunite with my husband in June of 2020. All in all, it was traumatizing, but mostly because I was pregnant. In mid-January when China was pulling people with fevers off the street and starting construction of enormous temporary hospitals, it was pretty obvious it was getting out and was really bad. I was reading everything about what treatments worked in China and they had identified the anti-inflammatory drugs by mid-March and I was trying to buy them. I saw literally nothing about those drugs on the news in the US until summer when a doctor was crying about how unfair it was he got them and lived when most others couldn't. I was that guy at work talking about how fast cases were popping up and how bad this might be. Had a lot of "that's not that many people" comments, to which I replied they are building multiple hospitals in days. It's worse than China is letting on. Then it escaped China and I knew we were fucked. It's interesting to hear about your friends' texts. My former employer has an office in China and of course employees in all offices were informed of the precautions the company was taking there. I remember after some weeks, we were told they would be heading back in. Not too long after my office was told to WFH due to the first known case being here in Seattle. It seemed like it was about 2 weeks before many other regional companies followed suit. Based on the news about various tech companies, it makes me wonder if certain people at that company had a significantly better understanding of the severity. I'm hard-pressed to believe that the US government didn't know about this until January. I have an epidemiologist friend who works for a government department of public health. I was told people in government absolutely knew this was coming down the pike in December 2019, But the alarm fell of deaf ears when it came time to close ports of entry for travelers. No one wanted to close airports, especially those who were there by virtue of getting a political appointment. They didn't even want to put up warnings in airports or have health department screeners looking for sick travelers. The life or gov employees were cut at the knees. As soon as my husband heard of a case in New York, we live in a very small town in the Midwest, he told his grandma to stay away from groups of people and to have us run her errands. I'm the one who overreacts. So when he was that serious I knew it wasn't good. We both knew once it was passed on from China it was bad. It didn't take me long to realize just how many people are selfish assholes. Part of me really believed governments would be quick with action and it would die down quick. It was really shocking to me that they let people travel without any restrictions for so long. Still, my country has hardly had any proper lockdown. So many people have never done anything to stop the virus. Many offices never closed. And there are so many victims. Long COVID is starting to become a real problem alongside COVID patients. I thought we would all do more to save lives. Maybe I've read too many stories of the heroism of my country during WW2. I thought we could be a little bit like them. Pretty naive, huh? Right. Once we started hearing reports of it spreading in Italy, I knew it was everywhere and simply undetected. No way it was just going to miraculously spread only to one other country, and nowhere else, not with how interconnected the whole damn globe is. When I heard about it spreading outside of China, I made sure to start stocking up extras over multiple shopping trips, as opposed to having to do one big hoard rush. That way, if I was unable to go shopping for a couple weeks, we would still be okay. I advised my friends to do the same, and got the side eye like I was a wackadoodle. Honestly, I'm an anxious person by nature. I was hoping that I was wrong, but everything that happened in 2020 was on my radar. I was surprised it wasn't worse. It all kind of felt like that moment when you're playing a civilization simulator, and one little thing kicks off a chain of events that disrupts the balance and spirals out of control. Now I make sure to keep an emergency supply at all times and rotate stuff. Nothing huge, but it's better than bum rushing the stores and it's not going to waste. By the time I hear about something, everyone else will hear about it too. The stores were absolutely insane once word got out about our schools closing and stuff. I was a little worried at first. I'm from Canada and at one point our government told people to carry 2 weeks' worth of foods and essential supplies. They didn't make a big fuss about it, just a low-key press release. My girlfriend thought I was nuts, but she played along and we went to the grocery store, purchased about the month's worth of food etc., grabbed extra TP of course. No, we didn't hoard. My girlfriend was actually laughing at me. Thought I was nuts. We ran into her parents' neighbor at the store, and they all shared a good laugh at my expense. My girlfriend started getting worried when on one of our shopping trips, more people started paying attention to the government warning, and she could see carts filled with multiples of items. She nearly had a panic attack in the grocery store. When I first heard about it I thought this is it. After years planning for a pandemic, you remember, the swine flu, bird flu, and so forth. However, I figured it would pan out like the rest but I did have that thought. Fast forward to when they cancelled sports. I got a text saying they just cancelled sports. I asked which ones, and she said all of them. That's when I told my folks to take their laptops home. And we haven't been back to the office since. I was actually at my sober house when things started shutting down. I remember being so angry because our weekly trip out was cancelled lol. To be fair we were stuck in our sober house except to grocery shop or go to meetings so it was boring. No one took it seriously, although it was an overreaction, that it would only be a few months. We were all pissed because we had to shut down the second house and keep it clean in case someone got sick. So we all had to room with each other. Previously we all had our own separate room and there was a whole other house. I went from despising my mask to not wanting to take it off.